Hey, are you okay? I called out to the blonde woman on a mountain trail, about a 20-minute hike from the parking lot halfway up the mountain. When she turned around, I noticed her features were distinctly different from those of an American, so I assumed she was an Asian. Hi. Actually, I've hurt my foot. She explained to me that while climbing the trail, she had twisted her ankle after trampling on a rock. Her destination was the same temple I was heading to, but it would be tough for her to walk with her current condition. When I offered her advice in the Japanese I had learned long ago, she explained why she was so determined to reach the temple. I understand. If that's the case, I'll help you. I extended my hand, and she smiled and thanked me. At that moment, I hadn't realized. I had no clue just how significant her influence on my life would be. My name is John. They say life has several turning points, and for me, it was when my mother passed away 3 years ago. My mother had always been adventurous and wouldn't be satisfied until she experienced things for herself. Before she died of a kidney disease, she said to me with a lonely look on her face, "Oh, I wish I could have visited Antarctica at least once." John, if there's something you want to do, make sure you do it while you're still healthy. Up until then, I had been a person who prioritized stability, avoiding failure and uncertainty. After graduating from college, I chose a government job not out of a noble desire to improve people's lives, but simply because I wanted a stable income. However, my mother's words lingered in my mind, leading me to make a significant decision. I decided to quit my government job and dive into the world of subculture, which I had always loved, including manga, anime, and games. For someone like me who valued stability, entering an industry known for its rapid changes seemed unthinkable. But spurred on by my mother's words, I chose to pursue a path that could inspire many people in the subculture world I had been immersed in since childhood. At the age of 29, I resigned from my government job and joined Autumn Rain Publishing, a mid-sized publishing company. Autumn Rain Publishing publishes a wide range of books, including novels, nonfiction, and academic books, and recently, they've been publishing many manga that serve as the basis for anime. By emphasizing my practical experience as a civil servant and my lifelong passion for the subculture, I managed to join the event planning department at Autumn Rain Publishing. The main tasks of the event planning department include organizing events to promote our company's content and preparing for participation in various events. Naturally, given my geek background, my job was to promote Autumn Rain Publishing's manga at events. After reviewing the data from previous events our company had participated in, I suggested to my boss, Michael, we should participate in this year's Autumn Come Fest. Autumn Come Fest is a large-scale self-published manga convention held every fall. While self-published manga conventions are typically seen as amateur-only events, in recent years, many have included corporate booths, with other publishers, anime studios, and game companies participating in past Autumn Come Fests. Seeing that our company had no record of participating in such conventions, I made a strong recommendation. You're right, gaining experience at such events could be valuable for our future initiatives. Alright, John, put together a proposal. With Michael's approval, I used my experience as a participant to prepare for our booth at Autumn Come Fest. 6 months after the proposal, I found myself at the event venue as an exhibitor. This year's Autumn Come Fest was held in a neighboring state, more than a 5-hour drive from where I lived. Due to the possibility of bad weather on the day of the event, the staff from Autumn Rain Publishing decided to head to the venue the day before to complete the necessary preparations. Since the preparations were finished by the morning, I decided to drive to a place I had wanted to visit for a long time. It's on foot from here. Wow, it's exactly like the anime. Getting out of the car, I was moved by the landscape, identical to the one from an anime I had watched countless times as a child. The parking lot was halfway up the mountain, and an unpaved trail quietly led to the summit. I was visiting the location said to be the model for the anime I was obsessed with as a child, Whirlwind Girl. Whirlwind Girl is a story about a boy who meets a girl from another world on his way to a temple where he always spent time alone, and grows as he protects her from an organization from her world. The scene where the protagonist, a lonely boy named Jake, climbs this mountain trail and meets the girl escaping from another world is etched vividly in my mind. Knowing that the temple was within driving distance from the Autumn Come Fest venue, I decided to take this pilgrimage to the Whirlwind Girl location. By the way, a pilgrimage involves visiting the actual locations that inspired a work. So, this is where Jake. Entering the trail, I slowly walked, reminiscing about the anime scenes. For popular anime, the model locations often gain fame and attract many fans. However, Whirlwind Girl was created before I was born and wasn't widely known. So the trail and the temple ahead were not famous as anime pilgrimage sites. Because of this, I could take my time exploring without worrying about anyone watching me. As I walked along the mountain path for about 20 minutes, I spotted a blonde woman sitting against a tree. If her condition had worsened, maybe I should call an ambulance. I'm worried about her, so I asked, "Are you okay?" And she looked at me with anxious eyes. Judging by her complexion and distinct features different from an American, she seemed to be a tourist from abroad. She had colored contacts, with her right eye a deep green and the other orange. I had a feeling I had seen her somewhere before recently. Suddenly, a realization struck me as I looked at this strikingly beautiful Asian woman in front of me. "You're Nanae, the cosplayer, aren't you?" I used my Japanese skills acquired from a long time ago to speak to her. Having lived in Japan until I was in the 6th grade and having used Japanese to deal with Japanese visitors during my time as a civil servant, I prided myself on my near-native pronunciation. Her eyes widened as she replied in halting English, "Yes, I am Nanae." Nani is a cosplayer living in Japan who has been active on social media for several years. According to the event's official website, she was scheduled to participate in a photoshoot at this year's Autumn Komi Fest, dressed as an anime character. Relieved that we could communicate, Nanae said in her hesitant English, "You can speak Japanese." "Good. Can you understand my English?" I crouched to meet her eye level and said, "I understand. But since this seems like an emergency, shall we continue in Japanese? Are you feeling unwell?" Nanae explained that she had twisted her right ankle on a rock while heading to the temple further up the trail. Following her gaze, I saw her swollen ankle. "Walking is going to be tough. Let me lend you my shoulder, and let's go back to the parking lot together. We can head to a hospital from there." Thinking it was best to prioritize treatment, I suggested that she turn back. However, she shook her head and said, "I must go to the temple ahead. Visiting the site from Whirlwind Girl is one of my reasons for coming to the US. The Autumn Coma Fest is tomorrow, and I will leave the US the day after. So, I only have today." Most people would probably tell her there was no need to push herself to visit while injured. But when Nani mentioned Whirlwind Girl, I felt a strong desire for her to see the site. I love that series too. I never expected to meet a fellow fan here. I said this excitedly and then turned my back to her. "But I can't let you walk in that condition. However, as a fellow fan of the anime, I want to help you visit the site. So, would you let me carry you?" It was probably an unexpected suggestion for her. Nanae hesitated with a frown but then gave a small nod and a cute smile, saying in English, "Please, I'd appreciate it. I wish I'd gone on a diet." She then leaned her weight onto my back. Though it normally takes about 10 minutes to walk from where Nanae was sitting to the temple, carrying someone slowed me down significantly. With breaks along the way, it took me about 30 minutes to finally reach Ryushin Temple, the temple from Whirlwind Girl. Wow! This is where Jake and Fina fought the organization's monsters, right? Nanae exclaimed with joy from my back as we arrived at Ryushin Temple. During the walk, we had talked extensively about Whirlwind Girl, knowing we were both fans of the anime. That's right. Look over there. Those are the steps where they ate rice balls in the second episode. Shall we go check it out? Nanae responded enthusiastically, "Yes, please." Oh, this is what a pilgrimage is like. I can't wait to take pictures, looking around eagerly. In the anime, Ryushin Temple served as a secret base for Jake and the girl from another world, Fina. It was the setting for many of their daily scenes, filled with so many topics to talk about for anime fans. Though I should have been exhausted from the trail, the joy of visiting a favorite anime's pilgrimage site with Nanae on my back made me forget my fatigue. Before I knew it, we had been exploring the temple grounds for over an hour. "I'm so sorry. You've been carrying me for so long. Am I not heavy?" After finishing our exploration, we decided to take a break on a bench near the temple office. Nanae, who had settled down, expressed her concern for me, making me feel a bit embarrassed. You were not heavy at all. Compared to carrying heavy equipment for Autumn Komi Fest, it was nothing. But how is your ankle? As I said this, I looked at her ankle. While touring the temple, we asked the temple office for something to cool her sprained ankle, and they kindly provided an ice pack. Her ankle was now wrapped with a towel holding the ice pack in place. It feels much better. You know, there's a scene like this in Whirlwind Girl too. Jake carried Fina when she was injured. Her smile, as she spoke about the anime, was as charming as a flower, and I couldn't help but be captivated by it. Though her age wasn't public, she seemed to be around my age or maybe a bit younger. As I was about to be entranced by the charm of such a famous cosplayer, who was invited to events all over Japan, a cold drop hit my cheek. The forecast said the weather would worsen tomorrow morning, but it looks like the rain is coming now. As I muttered this, raindrops started to fall from the cloudy sky. Since we would get drenched sitting on the bench, I carried her again and headed towards the eaves of the main hall for shelter. I thought the rain would stop soon if it was just a passing shower, but I was completely wrong. Within less than 20 minutes, the wind picked up, and the heavy raindrops pounded the ground with a deafening noise. As Nanae and I exchanged worried glances, one of the monks from the temple office approached us with an umbrella. When we thanked him again for lending us the ice pack, he shook his head, saying it was nothing, and told us something shocking. That strong wind earlier caused a tree to fall on the path leading up to the parking lot. I checked with a friend who's a contractor, and they said it's too dangerous to work in this weather, so the road won't be cleared until at least tomorrow morning. When I translated the monk's explanation for Nanae, she covered her mouth and widened her eyes in surprise. The monk, seeing her distressed look, kindly suggested, "We have a guest house here. You can stay overnight free of charge since it's an emergency. And as there are no other guests, we can offer you a private room." Considering the weather and the steepness of the path we had climbed, staying at the temple seemed like the best option. Nanae and I thanked the monk gratefully and followed him to the guest house. The first thing we did upon arriving at the guest house was to inform the necessary parties. We notified the hotel we were supposed to stay at and Michael, who was participating in the Autumn Komi Fest as a staff member. According to the weather forecast, the storm was expected to subside by midnight. The monk's friend, a contractor, promised to remove the fallen tree first thing in the morning. So we should be able to reach the Autumn Komi Fest venue by noon at the latest. When I explained this over the phone, Michael said calmly, "I understand. Let me know your exact arrival time once you have it. You've prepared well today, so don't worry if you're a bit late tomorrow. Everything will be fine." Nanae also struggled to inform her contacts about the possibility of being late for the Autumn Komi Fest tomorrow. For those she absolutely had to call, I helped by translating, and we managed to relay the necessary information. "You've been a great help. I thought I had studied enough English, but it's still tough to communicate about complex issues," she said. Bowing apologetically, I shook my head and replied, "It's no problem. We help each other in times of need. Besides, think of this as a rare experience. It's not every day you get to stay at a temple guest house." When I explained what a guest house was, she seemed intrigued and said, "So monks train here, we are lucky that we get to stay at such a place." Smiling cheerfully. However, the guest house only had minimal lighting, and being in the mountains during a stormy night felt quite unsettling. After finishing our meal of temple cuisine, Nanae and I volunteered to help with the dishes and then took a break in the guest house's entrance hall. "By the way, John, why is your Japanese so good?" As a Japanese, I was surprised at how easy it is to understand you, she asked. Realizing that we had only talked about Whirlwind Girl since meeting, I noticed we hadn't shared much about ourselves. I told her about spending my childhood in Japan until I moved back to America at age 12. When I was little, I only spoke English at home and lessons in school, so Japanese used to be my stronger language. My interest in America actually started with Whirlwind Girl, I explained. Nanae blinked her different colored eyes a few times and whispered, "No way." When I asked what was wrong, she shook her head and said, "It's nothing." Her face turned as red as an apple. I asked as I was getting worried, "Are you feeling unwell?" The monk mentioned they have some over-the-counter medicine. "Should I get some for you?" But she shook her head repeatedly and said, "I'm fine." I just have some things to think about. I'll go rest now. She then went to her room. Feeling a bit puzzled by her behavior but having nothing else to do, I returned to my room and fell asleep to the sound of the storm pounding the guest house. The next day, the storm stopped by midnight as predicted, and the contractor began clearing the fallen tree early in the morning. Fortunately, Nanae and I should be able to reach the Autumn Komi Fest venue, albeit a bit later than planned. Her ankle was almost completely healed, and she could walk on her own. Since Nanae had taken a taxi to the parking lot, I offered, "We're heading to the same place. Would you like to ride with me?" Though I had been worried about her after last night's incident, Nanae's eyes lit up, and she said, "Thank you. I'm sorry about yesterday. I'm fine now," bowing repeatedly to emphasize that I shouldn't worry about it. I was relieved to see her in good spirits and said, "All right then, let's get going," encouraging her to get into the car. Participating in the Autumn Komi Fest as an exhibitor for the first time felt like a department store closing sale with the crowd. The products prepared by Autumn Rain Publishing were character goods from our manga series. Since these were newly created specifically for Autumn Komi Fest, even our backup stock was selling out rapidly. Seeing the unexpected sales, Michael patted my shoulder and said, "We'll need to stock more next year," clearly delighted. During breaks, I visited the photo shoot area where Nanae was participating. Under the gaze of many photographers, she struck poses perfectly embodying an anime character. Responding to pose requests in English, she truly exemplified a professional cosplayer, and I felt a deep sense of respect for her. During a break from the photo shoot, she waved at me from afar. I wanted to talk to her, but knowing she was working, I decided not to interrupt and returned to the booth to continue the hectic sales. To my surprise, Nanae, still in her anime character cosplay, visited our booth. I have a lot of Autumn Rain Publishing's manga. It's great that they're also available in Japanese, so I can recommend them to my friends in Japan. My colleagues were wide-eyed at the sudden appearance of the beautiful Asian woman. Nanae bought a few items from our booth, and as she prepared to leave for her next venue, she expressed her regret at parting. As she was leaving, she gently squeezed my hand and said, "Thank you so much for yesterday. I'll see you later," before departing from the Autumn Rain Publishing booth. Wondering what she meant by "see you later," I noticed a small note she had slipped into my hand. Discreetly checking its contents, I read, "Could you meet me at the station square at 7 p.m? There is something I want to talk to you about." Feeling that it would be a shame to part ways with her like this, I spent the remaining time at Autumn Komi Fest in a state of restless anticipation. After successfully wrapping up the cleanup, I arrived at the designated station square precisely at the appointed time. She's not here yet. Looking around, I couldn't spot Nanae's trademark blonde hair. Just as I felt relieved and took a deep breath, someone tapped me on the shoulder from behind. I turned around to see an Asian woman with short black hair and hazel eyes standing there. Startled by the unexpected person, I gaped as she said, "Sorry I'm late." "It's me, Nanae. You didn't recognize me in this look, did you?" She stuck her tongue out playfully. "Nanae?" "But," I stammered. She explained that when she was cosplaying as Nanae, she always wore a blonde wig and colored contacts to make her appearance more distinctive. She had even kept the wig and contacts on until just before bed at the guest house. But more importantly, a face from deep in my memory resurfaced and dominated my thoughts. Could it be Irina? When I mentioned the name of the friend I remembered most from my childhood in Japan, Irina, gave me the biggest smile yet. "You remembered. It's been 18 years. Let's go somewhere we can talk," she said. My loud exclamation had drawn the attention of those around us. "Yeah. How about that bar over there?" Still shocked by the unexpected reunion, I walked with Irina to a nearby bar. After we each finished our first beer, we started talking non-stop. Her real name was Irina. The name Nanae was a stage name she adopted from her beloved grandmother. She had started cosplaying because of something her grandmother said just before she passed away 2 years ago. "Listen, Irina. You only live once, and there are limited things you can do while you're young, so give challenges while you can." After graduating from college and working for a trading company, Irina had felt that her life was somewhat dull. So, I ventured into the world of cosplay and subculture. You know how much I loved cosplay. As a child, she would modify her clothes to mimic anime characters and often got scolded by her parents. I see. Actually, Hearing about her past, I shared my story about how my late mother had also taught me the importance of giving challenges. After expressing her condolences for my mother, Irina said with teary eyes, "I feel like it's fate. After all, it was Whirlwind Girl that brought us together as friends and allowed us to meet again yesterday. We had become friends as children because I got hooked on Whirlwind Girl, a series Irina had recommended. I'm really grateful to you, Irina. Before that, I never really felt like I belonged in America. But when you said you were envious of me being born in the country that made such cool anime and recommended Whirlwind Girl, I started to see America as my roots. From what I learned yesterday, Irina was leaving for Japan tomorrow. Not wanting our fateful reunion to end here, I decided to share a long-held feeling with her. When we were kids, talking about anime with you made me happier than anything. Whirlwind Girl is undoubtedly a great series. But I kept rewatching it because I wanted a reason to be closer to you." Holding her hand, I looked at her earnestly and confessed my feelings. "I want to be close to you again, like we used to be. Even after you return to Japan, I want to stay friends, or ideally, something more." Hearing my confession, Irina swallowed hard and tears welled up in her eyes. "I've always liked you since we were kids. I was too embarrassed to say it back then." Shortly after I returned to America, Irina's family moved to another prefecture. Amidst the chaos, she lost my contact information, and that's how we ended up losing touch with each other. I always hoped to see you again, so I kept studying English. I want to be more than friends, like Jake and Fina. The last scene in Whirlwind Girl shows the grown-up protagonist and heroine surrounded by their family, seemingly their children, leading a happy life. Knowing her true feelings made my eyes well up with tears, and I said, "Thank you. I'm looking forward to the future with you, Irina." Afterward, I became much more dedicated to my work than I had ever been as a civil servant. Having Irina as my girlfriend supporting me from afar was the biggest reason. Irina also continued to grow, gaining attention as a cosplayer both domestically and internationally. A year after we started dating, Irina appeared as a guest at an event I hosted for Autumn Rain Publishing. I truly love America. I owe who I am today to American anime. Seeing Irina greet the fans at the event in fluent English, thanks to our many conversations, made my heart swell with pride. However, a year after that event, Irina suddenly announced her retirement from cosplay. The reason was that she had accepted my marriage proposal. Fina from Whirlwind Girl also devoted herself to her family after getting married, right? So I want to dedicate myself entirely to you after our marriage. One day during a holiday, Irina explained the reason for her retirement from cosplay while snuggling up to me in the living room. I embraced my beloved wife and said, "I will work hard for our family, just like Jake." We pledged to build a happy home, just like the anime that brought us together.